Welcome to Fantastic Living. I'm your host, Thuy Phan. Today we're going to take a trip kind of east and do a dish that is so flavorful and so delicious. It's not hard to do, but it just takes some steps, and it's butter chicken, and then I'll show you how to make a naan to go with it. Now, we don't have a tandoori oven, so it's not going to be as authentic as if you were to go to an Indian restaurant or to India with the tandoori oven, but there's a trick to do it at home that's just as good, and it's going to be pretty easy, and you're going to feel awesome when you make it and you're like, oh my gosh, I just made naan. Butter chicken, it sounds like it's got a lot of butter, but it really doesn't have any butter in it unless you add ghee at the end to it. But it's a blend of spices, and it's tomatoes and cream, and it just dips so well with that naan. So I had it at a restaurant and I was like, oh man, I really want to see if I can make that at home, and I have been able to make it at home, and it's nice to be able to do it when you aren't close to your favorite Indian restaurant and be able to share this with other people that you love. So first what we'll do is we'll marinate the chicken and let it sit for about 20 minutes, or overnight is even better if you have the time, and then we'll make the gravy or the sauce to go with the butter chicken, and then we'll make the naan, and it's going to be a really delicious meal. So what you need is about 1.5 pounds of chicken breast or chicken thighs. It's kind of personal preference. Some people like dark meat and some people like white. For this dish, I really like white meat chicken for it. So what we'll do is we'll cut them into thin slices. And here I have a whole chicken breast that has the skin and the bones on there, and we'll remove that and save it for when we make soup or whatnot. But we just want the breast for this. And I think usually you should have most of the spices in your spice drawer except for the garam masala. And it's fairly inexpensive. You just need to find it at your grocery store. And I think this recipe is pretty forgiving. There are exact measurements for the amount of spices you want to add, but I've been pretty loose with how much I add of this and that, and it still comes out pretty good, so you don't have to worry too much about being completely exact. I'll cut these into thin strips. What makes this marinade so flavorful is you have some tomatoes in there, you have ginger, you have garlic, and then you have the added spices of the coriander and cumin, garam masala, and that's really one of the hallmarks of Indian cooking is all the spices. It's usually quite complex and definitely not what I would consider mild or bland. And this is marinated in a yogurt marinade, and that helps to really tenderize the meat, make it really juicy. And I make no claims that this is the most authentic version, but it is a very good version. So now our chicken is cut, we're going to start our marinade. So for our marinade, what we will add is 1/2 cup of plain non-fat yogurt. I want to make sure it's plain. We don't want vanilla flavored in here, so that yogurt's going to help to break down the proteins and really soften up that chicken. And we're going to mince and dice some garlic and ginger, and just do a little extra because we'll need some for the marinade and then some for the actual sauce. And you just need 20 minutes to marinate this, but the longer the better. So you can give it an overnight marinade. That can only help it get even more delicious. Here we have some ginger. Just gonna grate a little part of it. And I'll do some over here for our sauce later. Some shallots. You can use a whole onion, but I happen to have shallots, so we'll use that. This will be for our sauce. This will add a nice sweetness to it. So now I'm gonna add the yogurt. It's half a cup of yogurt. We have 2 teaspoons of garam masala. And here we have a blend of turmeric, chili powder, coriander, and cumin. So about a teaspoon of each of those. And then we need a teaspoon of salt. Just mix it all up. Just make sure it's mixed in really well. Every piece of chicken is coated. Okay, so now what I'll do is I'll cover this and I'll put it in the fridge to chill for about 20 minutes while we get our naan and our gravy started. And while our chicken is marinating, I'm going to chop up a few cilantro for our naan and also to top our butter chicken at the end. And we just want to get the leaves. So you can do the naan plain, or you can do a garlic butter sauce on top, which is delectable. It's so delicious on its own without the butter chicken. But if you're not into cilantro, because some people think it tastes like soap, so if you fall into that category, you can skip this. But garlic, butter, cilantro, all good things. So I'll just give it a rough chop. So now let's get started on our naan, because we'll need an hour for it to rise. So what we want to do is add half a cup of warm water to a bowl. And then to that, add 1 teaspoon of sugar. And the reason why we add sugar is for the yeast to activate, because they love to eat sugar. They convert it to starch. And so we have 1 packet here of instant dry yeast, so it's fast acting. It doesn't take as long. And we're gonna leave this for 10 minutes and let it get bubbly. And once it starts foaming, then we'll know it's ready. And what we'll need for this is 2 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour. Then we need half a cup of plain yogurt, again, plain yogurt. And then a teaspoon of salt and a tablespoon of oil. So you can get that ready. Add our yogurt. And a teaspoon of salt. We'll wait and we'll mix that all together, and then we'll start kneading it. It'll take about 10 minutes to knead by hand, or you can use a stand mixer and use a dough hook and let the machine do the work for you. And you're looking for a glossy, smooth finish to the dough. And then you're gonna leave it for an hour for it to proof and rise, double the size. And then after that, we'll cut it up, we'll roll it out, and then we'll start frying it. Now you can see the yeast has started to get foamy. It's been about 10 minutes. It's eating the sugar and it's getting happy. So what we'll do is we'll add it all together and we'll start kneading it. So I have the yogurt, flour, oil, and salt mixed here. And we will add our yeast mixture in. And we'll get our hands dirty and really get in there. Kind of a shaggy dough, but just get it all together. And I will add a light dusting of flour onto the surface, and we'll start rolling. Probably should have done that before, but it's okay. We'll make it work. flour on the surface. And that's where you get your hand workout in for the day. Just knead it for 10 minutes until it's smooth and glossy. I know sometimes when people are thinking about making bread or dough, the thought of kneading really kind of turns you off to it because it gets work and you don't know at which point is it right or how much more you need to work it. But I think when you're doing naan, it is a pretty forgiving dough because you're going to be frying it versus baking it at a certain temperature. So I made it a couple times and I haven't messed it up, so knock on wood. But it's getting there. And like I said, you can also use a stand mixer and use the hook attachment. And basically when you're kneading it, you are just activating the gluten. So it forms those strands and becomes a type of bread. This is such a treat. It's nothing quite like nice warm hot naan to dip into your butter chicken, but yeah, these days I'll see that you can buy naan in packages in the store, but then I think the ingredient list is pretty simple and usually most people have all the stuff in their pantry. You just take a couple minutes and make it yourself. And the naan, you can freeze it too, so there's that. You make extra and save the rest for another time. Okay, and this looks pretty good. Okay, it's pretty good. And basically what we'll do now is put this in a bowl and cover it with a damp towel so it doesn't dry out, and leave it in a room temperature or warm area like on top of your oven or inside your oven with the light on, and just let it rise. Give it about a good hour, and once it doubles in size, then you can start cutting and shaping your naan.